The alien voice came at dawn, slipping through every speaker, every screen, every frequency. Humans, it said, its tones smooth and mocking, still crawling beneath your clouds, still hiding in your dirt. You cannot touch us. The words rolled over cities, and silence followed, except for the faint hiss of static and the quiet collapse of hope. The overseers have been above Earth for months now, their ships tracing lazy orbits like vultures circling a dying beast. They did not invade. They did not need to. Their presence alone was domination. General Mara Kessler stood before the glass wall of the Global Command Tower, watching one of the vast silver discs slide across the cloud line. It caught the sun and glittered like a blade. Behind her, the war room murmured with restrained panic, technicians confirming what everyone already knew. Another broadcast. Another humiliation. She tightened her jaw and turned away. "Turn it off," she ordered, though she knew it made no difference. The overseers didn't need ears to know their message had been heard. Down in the streets, people were learning to live with fear as background noise. Children played beneath skies streaked with alien contrails. News anchors smiled too wide. The world was enduring, but barely. Humanity's weapons had proven useless. Energy cannons, drones, missiles, all absorbed by an invisible skin of light that rippled harmlessly when struck. Every failed attempt gave the overseers new material for mockery. Your metal sticks throw pebbles, they'd sneer. You fight like insects against glass. But the insects had teeth. Somewhere beneath a stretch of uncharted jungle, a man known only as the Phantom listened to the same broadcast through a rusted field radio. The words reached him delayed and distorted, like ghosts crawling through static. He didn't flinch. He sat cross-legged in a shallow pool of rainwater, camouflage dripping from his shoulders, face masked in mud and moss. Around him, the jungle breathed, a living, rotting cathedral of roots and mist. He had not spoken to another human in over a year, and he preferred it that way. He had once been a soldier, though his name had been erased from every record long ago. His legend had survived only in whispers. The sniper who could wait 3 days for a single trigger pull. The ghost who vanished in a fog and reappeared with a confirmed kill. Commanders used to tell stories about him to frighten recruits into discipline. If you make too much noise, they'd warn, the Phantom will hear you. Now, the same commanders were searching for him again. The Overseer's latest transmission had crossed a threshold no one could ignore. They had projected images, mock recreations of Earth's fallen soldiers stumbling through simulated mud, their weapons bent into flowers. "Your heroes rot in soil," the alien voice declared. "Even your best hide in the dark." It was that final phrase that reached the jungle. The Phantom listened until the broadcast faded, then slowly raised his eyes toward the canopy where faint silver light trembled through the leaves. In a distant bunker, General Kessler stared at the hollow map glowing with the Overseer's patrol patterns. "They're laughing at us," she said quietly. Her aide didn't respond. She didn't need comfort. She needed an answer. Then, across the room, someone uttered a word that carried a strange weight. "Phantom." The name hung in the air like a myth spoken aloud after too long. Kessler turned, studying the trembling voice that had said it. For a heartbeat, she let herself imagine the impossible, that one human, unseen and patient, could strike where armies had failed. Outside, thunder rolled through the clouds. In the jungle, the Phantom packed his rifle. He didn't smile, didn't curse, didn't pray. He simply began to move. The taunts from above had finally found their target. The retrieval team found the Phantom exactly where the old dossiers suggested he might be, buried in the tangled heart of the equatorial jungle, half submerged in a stagnant pond, motionless except for the rise of his breath. Captain Idris Hale was the first to spot him, though at first he mistook the figure for a mound of decaying vegetation. Only the faint gleam of an eye beneath dripping moss revealed a human presence. Idris kept his voice low as he approached, feeling the oppressive stillness close around him. "We need you," he said, not bothering with ranks or formalities. The Phantom responded with a barely perceptible shift, acknowledging the words without granting them ownership. Idris had spent years hearing rumors about the man, tales of impossible marksmanship, supernatural patience, and a near-feral understanding of wilderness. None of those stories captured the quiet intensity of his presence. Up close, the phantom seemed sculpted by the swamp itself, an extension of its ancient hostility. When he finally rose from the water, mud streamed from him in sheets, revealing a lean frame wrapped in vines and camouflage that had become part of his skin. Idris waited for a question, a refusal, anything, but the phantom simply nodded once. He had heard the alien taunts too. He knew why they had come. The journey back to the forward camp was slow, dictated not by necessity, but by the phantom's instinctive caution. He moved as if each footprint needed approval from the forest. Idris followed without complaint, sensing that any impatience might shatter the fragile agreement between them. When they emerged into the dimly lit perimeter of the camp, soldiers halted mid-task, staring. Some whispered the nickname with reverence, others with uncertainty. The phantom ignored them all. He went directly to the weapon laid out on a makeshift table beneath a tarp. It was an experimental rifle, sleek, rail-assisted, humming with dormant potential. Earth scientists had poured their last hopes into its design, praying for something that might punch through alien shielding. The phantom studied it without touching, as if taking in its history, its flaws, its unspoken demands. Then he reached for a chunk of wet moss and pressed it against the barrel. Idris blinked. "You're decorating it?" he asked, half joking, half bewildered. The phantom's voice finally emerged, low and rough from disuse. "Shine kills," he said, and continued camouflaging the weapon until it seemed grown rather than forged. Once the rifle was prepared, the phantom turned to the tactical display projected above the table. It showed the overseer's ship's descent pattern, an elegant loop that skimmed treetops during thermal scans. Idris explained the timing, the shield fluctuations, the slim opportunity for a precise strike. The phantom absorbed every detail with an expression that gave nothing away. At the mention of the shield's half-second weakness, he tapped the display once, indicating that the moment was sufficient. Idris wasn't convinced, but he trusted the instinct of the man who could wait days without blinking. Night fell quickly in the jungle, swallowing the camp in layered darkness. Cicadas screamed from the underbrush, and distant thunder rolled across the canopy. The phantom stood at the edge of the tree line, his silhouette barely distinguishable from the gnarled roots around him. Idris approached, hesitant to intrude on whatever ritual or mindset the sniper required before a mission. "We'll be ready at dawn," he said. The overseer patrol hits its lowest point then. The phantom didn't answer. Instead, he stepped into the shadows, letting the jungle claim him with the ease of an old habit. Idris watched until he was certain the man had vanished entirely, swallowed by mud and vine and silence. Only then did he exhale. Humanity had placed its hopes in a single figure who preferred solitude to glory. Yet, as the night deepened, Idris felt something unfamiliar stirring, an anticipation not born of desperation, but of possibility. The phantom was preparing, and the jungle itself seemed to hold its breath. The jungle exhaled a thick mist as dawn approached, smothering the ground in a pale, shifting veil. The phantom had been in position long before the first hint of light touched the canopy. He lay fully submerged except for a single eye and the tip of his rifle, both concealed beneath a lattice of mud-slick vines. The swamp held him like an ancient secret, its cold water brushing his skin with insect legs and drifting leaves. He did not react. Stillness was his oldest companion. Only the faint tremor of distant engines betrayed that the moment he had spent a lifetime preparing for was drawing near. The overseer patrol ship descended with a purring hum that vibrated through the soil. Even without seeing it, the phantom felt the shift in atmospheric pressure, the subtle crackle of energy that signaled the thinning of the alien shield. He measured these sensations the way others measured time, instinctively, accurately, without hesitation. Above the treetops, the ship's metallic underside glowed with bands of pulsing light, each rhythm carrying a message of superiority. Another taunt echoed across the jungle, dripping with condescension. Surface dwellers, the voice crooned, still crawling, still dreaming of resistance. The phantom's breath flattened. The insult didn't anger him. Emotion had long ago become a luxury he no longer entertained. But it sharpened his focus, reminding him of the fragile world listening helplessly beyond this swamp. He shifted a fraction of an inch, aligning his scope with a narrow gap between two waterlogged branches. Through it, he glimpsed the precise point on the ship where the shield flickered during thermal scans, a place no wider than a fingernail, exposed for less than a second. Idris had called it impossible. The Phantom considered it a challenge. From his hidden vantage, he watched the ship's drones fan out beneath the craft like metallic dragonflies, scanning for movement. Their sensors sliced through vines, brush, and heat signatures with clinical precision. Yet the Phantom remained undetected. He had coated his entire body in a slurry of clay and decayed vegetation, muting his warmth to match the swamp's tepid breath. Even the rifle's magnetic rail was insulated with layers of damp moss to disguise its faint energy output. He had become a creature of the environment, a silhouette of the earth itself. As the ship drifted lower, the drone's movements grew erratic, as though encountering interference they could not classify. The Phantom recognized the confusion. The jungle was too dense, too alive, too unpredictable for their pristine algorithms. One drone paused above the pool where he lay submerged, its lights combing the surface. He slowed his heartbeat, willing himself into an even deeper stillness. After a tense moment, the drone flitted away, deceived by the swamp's warm murk. The hum of the ship shifted pitch. The thermal scan sequence was beginning. The Phantom slid his finger to the trigger, feeling the faint magnetic charge build along the rifle's length. He measured the timing and breaths. Inhale, hold, wait. The shield shimmered, a trembling ripple of energy barely noticeable to any ordinary eye. But he saw it. He felt the gap open like a subtle pulse in the air. He fired. The shot was nearly silent, only a soft distortion of air marking its passage. The projectile sliced upward, pierced the flicker in the shield, and vanished into the ship's command chamber. A second later, the Overseer patrol lurched violently, its smooth descent breaking into a spasmodic wobble. Lights blinked erratically across its hull. The taunting voice cut off mid-sneer, replaced by a garbled alarm. Drones swarmed in sudden frenzy, sweeping the jungle with frantic patterns, but the Phantom was already sinking deeper into the swamp, gliding beneath its surface like a shadow returning home. The ship's metallic scream echoed overhead as it crashed through the canopy, splintering branches and sending a shockwave of debris through the forest. The Phantom surfaced only enough to breathe, watching the smoke rise through the trees. One shot, one message, and above the ruin, the jungle whispered its approval. Smoke curled through the canopy long after the crash, drifting in lazy spirals that carried the scent of scorched metal and ruptured circuits. General Kessler stood at the lip of the crater carved by the fallen Overseer's ship, her boots sinking into the churned mud left by the impact. The jungle still trembled from the force of the collision, but she barely noticed. Her gaze followed the jagged remnants of the alien vessel as teams swarmed over it, pulling apart shattered panels and studying the exposed innards with a mix of fear and exhilaration. She had expected destruction, maybe even chaos. Yet what unsettled her most was the silence. The Overseers had not spoken since the moment of the strike. Their once constant jeering had vanished without explanation, and that absence weighed heavily on her. Idris joined her, wiping sweat and soot from his face. The analysts say the shield breach came from below, he said. Clean penetration. No energy distortion they can identify. His tone carried a rare note of awe. Kessler didn't respond at first. She imagined the impossible shot threading upward from the swamp, a single line of defiance reaching into the heart of alien arrogance. So it worked, she said finally, as if the words needed careful testing. One man changed the direction of an entire planet. Idris gave a tired half-smile. He didn't do it for medals. He didn't even wait for extraction, Kessler muttered. He vanished before our drones reached the tree line. She tried to sound frustrated, but the truth was she understood. A figure like the Phantom didn't belong in debriefing rooms or public ceremonies. He belonged to the shadows that shaped him, the places where patience outweighed ambition and silence held more honesty than applause. Hours later, debris continued to be cataloged, and scientists worked feverishly at makeshift stations, studying fragments that glowed with residual energy. They discovered filaments of the alien shield woven through the wreckage, threads of shimmering light that flickered when touched. The pattern suggested rhythm, not just defense, as if the shield had been alive in some inscrutable way. Yet even with this discovery, the scientists knew their breakthrough had come from the sniper, not the rubble. His shot had revealed the weakness. His instincts had charted a new path. News of the downed patrol spread fast. Across continents, screens flickered with images of smoldering treetops and recovered fragments, each shot sparking disbelief and a trembling hope. Civilians stepped outside to stare at the sky, where the once predictable alien patrol routes had shifted into erratic, jittery formations. For the first time since the overseers arrived, their movements showed hesitation. On the outskirts of the jungle, the Phantom moved through the undergrowth with the ease of a creature born to it. Birds took quiet shelter as he passed, sensing the residual tension trailing him. He climbed an overgrown ridge and paused, listening to the faint hum of distant engines. More ships lingered in the upper atmosphere, keeping greater distance now, scanning with sharper paranoia. Their silence revealed more than any of their taunts ever had. They feared the hit they hadn't seen coming. The Phantom crouched beneath a broadleaf fern, resting his rifle across his knees. He wasn't celebrating. Victory meant little to him. Impact meant everything. He pictured the ship's fracture, the explosion of light, the stunned voice cutting off mid-boast. Not satisfaction, confirmation. The overseers could bleed. Back at command, Kessler drafted a message meant for orbit, her words firm but restrained. It transmitted moments later, rippling through the upper atmosphere as a simple declaration: Earth would not bow. She knew the overseers would hear it, and she hoped they understood the implication behind every syllable. In the jungle, the Phantom slipped deeper into the shadows, leaving no trace but the faint whisper of disturbed leaves. He knew the conflict wasn't over. The overseers would regroup, retaliate, adapt. But now they moved with caution, and caution meant time. Time for Earth to prepare, time for resistance to rise, time for another shot when a moment came. He disappeared into the murk, steady and silent, the world's quiet guardian awaiting the next ascent of light through the trees.